I spent $9,400 on a family trip to Japan, then they replaced me with Kevin's girlfriend. So I cancelled everything. Chapter 1, the text that changed everything. I booked a $9,400 dream vacation to Japan for my dad's 60th birthday, all expenses paid, everything planned, down to the cherry blossom viewing, sumo matches, and Michael and Star sushi reservations. It was meant to be a gift to celebrate him, to bond the family. But one text shattered everything. Hey, we gave you a spot to Kevin's girlfriend. She's more fun. I stared at the screen. No apology, no explanation, just a betrayal wrapped in casual cruelty. I replied with 2 words, got it. And that night, I began crafting a revenge that none of them would ever forget. It all started 6 months earlier when I first pitched the idea of the Japan trip to my dad. He's a quiet man, a retired postal worker who sacrificed so much for our family. Japan was always his dream destination. He loved samurai history, Shinto shrines, and traditional tea ceremonies. So when I got a fat work bonus, I knew exactly how I wanted to spend it. My family dad, my stepmom Barbara, my half-brother Kevin, and my stepsister Janice were all excited. At first, we formed a group chat. I shared the itinerary and everyone seemed on board. I handled the logistics, 8 round-trip flights, 2 hotel suites in Kyoto and Tokyo, local rail passes, day tours, and dining reservations. The costs added up fast, but I was happy to do it. But little things started to feel off. Kevin and Janice would rarely respond in the group chat. Barbara made snide remarks about how I was being extra with the planning. I brushed it off. I wanted this to be perfect for Dad. Then came the twist. Kevin had a new girlfriend, Lisa. She wasn't originally on the list, but about 2 weeks before the trip, I started seeing her tagged in family photos and group dinners I wasn't invited to. Still, I didn't think much of it until the text came in. We gave you a spot to Kevin's girlfriend. She's more fun. That's when I knew I had been cut out of my own trip. No warning, no discussion, just replaced by a woman I barely knew. My name was wiped from the reservations without a second thought. So I replied, got it. But what they didn't know was that all the bookings were in my name. I had full control over the flights, hotels, and rental agreements. They thought they could replace me and enjoy my generosity without consequences. That night, I cancelled everything. One by one, the non-refundable flights, cancelled. Hotels, gone. Rail passes, dinner reservations, museum tours, all revoked. I watched as my inbox filled with confirmation of the cancellations. The cherry on top, I called the Airbnb host in Kyoto and Tokyo and cancelled the reservation directly. I even got a partial refund. They wouldn't find out until they arrived at the airport, and I wasn't done, because when they came crawling back, confused, stranded, and angry, I had another surprise waiting for them back home. Chapter 2, Airport Chaos and Empty Itinerary. It was 5:13 a.m. when I got the first frantic call. Blocked number. I didn't answer. Then came the texts. From Janice, then Barbara, then even Kevin, who never messaged me unless he needed something. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree, each notification another little spark of validation. Hey, were the flights cancelled? We're stuck at the airport and the desk says there's no reservation. What is going on? Did you mess something up? No, Janice, I didn't mess up. I cleaned up, I turned off my phone and rolled over, soaking in the morning sun from my quiet apartment, while they were likely fighting over who to blame at the departure gate. They still didn't know, still hadn't put 2 and 2 together. I had control, and they were at the mercy of a reality they created. By noon, I checked my email to confirm everything was officially cancelled. The airline had processed my refund. Credit. The hotels issued cancellation notices. My bank had credited back several hundred in loyalty points. It was almost satisfying, but the best part came that night. Barbara posted on Facebook a cryptic message. Some people are truly ungrateful. Family should stick together. Oh, so now I was family? I smiled and kept scrolling. I wasn't going to respond. Not yet. They needed to stew in it a little longer. They scrambled to rebook flights on their own dime. They cobbled together a last-minute plan, booked subpar hotels, and missed most of the key events I had lined up. No tea ceremony, no cherry blossom cruise, just tourist traps and overpriced ramen. Lisa, the girlfriend, posted selfies with captions like, making memories with the FAM in Japan, except they weren't memories. They were reminders of what could have been if they hadn't crossed me, but the real power move came after they returned home. I had one final ace up my sleeve. Remember those spare keys they used to my apartment complex? The ones they abused. Every time they needed a place to crash or store boxes temporarily, yeah, those were now useless, because the locks had been changed, and thanks to a convenient new lease adjustment. So had the rent tripled. They didn't know until they tried to buzz in. Until they got to the door with suitcases in tow and found nothing worked, Barbara called. Left a voicemail crying. Kevin texted me photos of the door handle asking all I sent back was, "Hope Japan was fun, but I wasn't done yet." Chapter 3, Eviction Notices and Expired Credit Cards. They thought the Japan debacle was the end of my revenge. Oh no, that was just the appetizer. By the time they landed back home tired, sunburnt, wallets aching from overpriced tickets and last minute hotel fees, I had already set the next trap. Quietly, legally, perfectly. You see, a few months prior, when Kevin was whining about rent being too high in the city, I let him and Lisa sublet my downtown condo under the condition that they'd pay utilities and maintain it like adults. Kevin signed everything electronically, never reading the clause that allowed me to change the lease terms with 30 days notice. I gave notice right before they left for Japan, buried in a cheerful email titled "Quick Condo Update." That I knew they wouldn't open. Rent tripled. Due date, day after they returned. Late fee, 10% per day. I waited for the notification from my building's concierge. Sure enough, Kevin and Lisa showed up, sweaty and exhausted, suitcases in tow, only to find the lock codes no longer worked. Their access badges deactivated. Their things still inside. Barbara, meanwhile, was facing her own chaos. She'd been squatting in my dad's old property, a home I technically owned after helping Dad refinance years ago. When I noticed she'd moved her unemployed cousin and her 6 cats into the guest bedroom, I started eviction proceedings. Quietly, thoroughly. The notice went out while she was in Tokyo. When she got back, the deadline had passed. She called me sobbing. "This is your family. You're going to make us homeless?" "No," I said flatly. "I'm just making sure you all finally pay for something." Janice wasn't spared either. She had been freeloading on my Netflix, Apple Music, and even my grocery delivery account. I changed every password, set up 2-factor authentication. Her panicked email titled, "Hey bestie, weird login thing," went straight to trash. But the cherry on top, their bank cards. See, they'd all shared a joint credit card with Dad, one I paid off monthly to help keep his credit score clean after Barbara's shopping addiction nearly tanked it years ago. Guess who had full authorization to close the account? Yup, me. I shut it down. Dad had already been looped in. I explained everything to him during a quiet dinner at a local steakhouse just days before they returned. I expected anger, confusion, maybe disappointment, but you know what Dad did? He leaned back in his chair, sipped his drink, and said, "Took you long enough." He'd seen it coming. He'd watched Barbara manipulate me for years, Kevin ride my coattails, Janice undermine every success I had. He didn't agree with their choices, but he always hoped they'd change. "They made their beds," he said. "You just finally handed them the sheets." With Dad's blessing, I cut the final tie. By the time the family realized just how deep my revenge ran, it was too late. They tried calling Dad, but he ignored them. They tried calling me, but I was out of reach on a flight to Kyoto. Solo. I used the refunded credit to rebook the trip. 1 room, 1 rail pass. All for me. I walked through the bamboo groves in Arashiyama, rode the Shinkansen to Tokyo, watched the cherry blossoms bloom outside my hotel window. I dined alone at the sushi place that required reservations 3 months in advance, and every single moment felt like peace. No chaos. No guilt, just justice. And as I sipped matcha beneath a temple bell, I got one last message from Janice. "You ruined everything." I smiled, took a photo of the serene landscape in front of me, and replied, with one word, "Exactly." Chapter 4, The Inheritance Clause and the Birthday Bashtwo. Weeks later, it was Dad's actual birthday. The real one. The day we should have been in Kyoto, watching lanterns float across the river. Instead, I booked a private dinner for just the 2 of us. A surprise. He hadn't said much since the trip. Part of me wondered if he blamed me, but when I picked him up and brought him to the rooftop restaurant, he squeezed my hand and whispered, "Thank you for everything." I know what happened. Turns out while they were in Japan. Dad stayed behind due to health issues, another reason I wanted to make the trip special. And while the others treated him like an afterthought, I was the only one who called daily, made sure he was stocked with groceries, and sent a nurse over to check in. Over dinner, he handed me a folder, inside, an updated copy of his will. I had my lawyer make changes, he said. You've always looked out for me, and I saw what they did. You're the executor now, and the main beneficiary. They'll get something small, but you get the house, the savings, the land, everything. I was speechless. I didn't do any of this for a reward, but seeing it recognized, it meant more than any revenge ever could. But I wasn't going to let them off entirely. I mailed each of them a birthday invitation, not to Dad's party but to my celebration, a week later, at my apartment rooftop. Surrounded by real friends and distant cousins, I toasted to new beginnings. Kevin, Janice, and Barbara showed up late, dressed like they expected some kind of reconciliation. Instead, they arrived to find a projector screen displaying highlights of their botched Japan trip stitched together from public posts and comments, captioned, "How to lose everything in one vacation." Barbara gasped. Kevin stormed off. Janice tried to unplug the projector. I raised my glass and said, "To family, the kind you choose," and for the first time in months, I felt free. Chapter 5, my new chapter and their last regret. Morning after I sent the gift boxes, the world went quiet. No calls, no texts, no passive-aggressive Facebook posts. Just silence. It was the sound of realization hitting them like a freight train. I took a walk that day through the park near my apartment. For the first time in weeks, I felt peace, not petty satisfaction, but a deep, grounded sense of peace. I defended my dignity, protected my boundaries, and honored my father in a way they never did. A week later, I got a handwritten letter in the mail. From Lisa. It said, "I didn't know. I thought you gave the trip up because you didn't like us. I see now how badly they used you. I'm sorry." I folded the letter, placed it in a drawer, and moved on. Lisa didn't need forgiveness from me, she needed a new group of people. As for the others, Barbara filed for bankruptcy 3 months. Later, Kevin moved in with a friend, bounced between temp jobs. Janice started a YouTube channel about healing after toxic families, as if she wasn't the toxin. Meanwhile, Dad and I went to Japan the following spring. Just the two of us. We stood under a blooming cherry blossom tree in Kyoto, sipping tea, watching tourists laugh, and listening to temple bells echo in the distance. "This," he said, "is what I dreamed of," and I smiled, because I finally understood what healing felt like. Sometimes revenge is not about getting even, ending the end.